Well, hi everyone, and greetings from Northern Michigan. This is Bob the Science Guy. Thank you very much for your patience. I was rebooting the computers to make sure they were nice and smooth, and for some reason the observatory computer decided it didn't want to play nicely. Okay, folks, this is why we have checklists in aviation. I made a little mistake. When I turned the computer off, I didn't restart all the equipment. So let's go ahead and just do that right from scratch. The first thing that we do is we open up this program right here. This is the Celestron plane wave interface. And this is the connection between the computer and the telescope mount and everything that goes along there. We're going to begin alignment. And what it's going to do is it's going to bring the telescope to the home position. And now it's completed. Then we're going to go down here to the ASCOM driver. We're going to connect the telescope to the computer. And it's working fine. We're going to connect the dome. Actually, we don't really need to. We're going to connect the focuser though. And here's where we are in our focuser. We're at 34,921 steps, and that is in focus. Now what we're going to do is we're going to open up Nina. All right. So now what we have is all of the equipment attached through Nina. Just doing a couple of quick housekeeping things. For example, I'm going to turn the cooler on the camera. That'll chill the camera down to about 10 degrees centigrade, -10. And that'll make the sensor a little bit quieter. Then we'll go over here to imaging. And let's just take a couple of images and see what we have. And there we go. This is the full image right here. And then here are our stars. You see they're nice and pinpoint. And if you look at this, you'll see our focus is excellent all over. So even out in the corners, we've got nice round stars. Now, at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera off in Nina, because we're going to look at some things that I want to do some live stacking on. And a better program to do that with is something called SharpCap, because it does live stacking. So let's go ahead and turn the camera off here. And we'll start up SharpCap. Stellarium is a planetarium program. And ideally what we should be able to do is see the location of the telescope in the sky on planetarium when we link the two, which is what I just did. And this is how we'll point the telescope initially. Now, just to kind of give you an idea of where we are, here are some interesting things up in the sky. These are the constellations. That's Polaris, the North Star, at the tip of Ursa Minor. And we can go in here and we can find objects to have a look at. Now, Professor Parks, who's joined us tonight and is an astronomer, got a nice image of something called the Cocoon Nebula, or the Lagoon Nebula the other day, wasn't it? And that looks like it's in a location that we can get to. So let's see if we can go over there. Now what I'm doing right now is I'm slewing the telescope. And as you see, it's coming over towards our target, which is near the ecliptic, over in the southeast sky. It should be high enough for us to be able to see. But this is the Milky Way right here, so the Lagoon Nebula is actually in the Milky Way. All right. So I couldn't remember if it was the Lagoon or the Cocoon Nebula. Thanks for clearing that up, Professor Parks. We're in the vicinity of the Lagoon Nebula. Going to take an 8-second image here. Have a look at the star field. We're going to stretch it a little bit And now what we're going to do is going to do something called plate solving so that we actually line the telescope up to where we want it. Right now, the telescope thinks that it is pointing at the Lagoon Nebula. It's not really quite there. So what we need to do is take a picture of these stars. It's going to figure out what it's actually looking at. And then what it's going to do is it's going to realize, okay, well, I'm actually looking here, but I need to look over here. And it's going to move the telescope. Now it's solving the plate. Now, think that's a satellite or an airplane? Go ahead and put it in the chat. That's an airplane because it's got blinking lights. Now it's solved what it's looking at, and now it's going to move the telescope to where it actually should be, which is pointing at the Lagoon Nebula, which happens to be right there. There's your old friend, Dr. Parks. Now, let's go ahead and have a good look at it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down here to something called PHD2. This is a guiding program, and what it's going to do is it's going to take a series of images through that small telescope that's on top of the RASA. And then we're going to pick one of these stars, like that one right there, and it's going to lock onto that star and prevent it from, you know, it'll take care of any minor imperfections in the tracking on the mount. Now down here, you see the tracking accuracy is less than 1 arc second. So we're in pretty good shape there. The telescope that we're using tonight is called a Rowe-Ackermann-Schmidt astrograph. It is an f2.2 instrument. It is extremely fast. So things that may take 5 minutes exposures on a regular telescope can be done in 30 seconds on this one. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to take a 1-minute exposure. And we're going to live stack it. So when live stacking in SharpCap, you have to make sure that you're not stretched over here where you would normally stretch your histogram. And you normalize everything down here. When we get our first image in, yeah, individual images were on the order of 2 to 3 minutes. We're going to do a 1-minute image here. See what you think of it, Professor Parks. So right down below me here, I'm going to bring this up actually. I'm going to come up here for a little while. But right down here is our shot timer, so to say. This is the duration of the image that we're taking, and that's the first image out. So there's our first image. The first thing that we're going to do is here's our curves. You see we've got a red, green, and a blue curve here. Notice that they don't quite line up. If we go over and hit this little lightning bolt, that will line them all up, and that does something called white balancing. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and stretch this image so that we get the actual data that we want to see. And there's our first image of the Lagoon Nebula. See if we can do a little better with that. I'm going to apply the flat that I took earlier this evening. That's going to try and get rid of some of this vignetting that you see around the edges. You see what happens there. See how it changed it right away? So actually, let's restart that. Let's do two things. Let's go ahead and give that a 90-second exposure with a flat applied. See if we can get a really nice picture of this image. You see how the vignetting went away when I put on the flat? You'll also note that little dust motes and such will go away as well. And there's the Lagoon Nebula. That's one shot. That's out of focus. That's unacceptable. I wonder if I banged it when I was out there. Let's see if we can do a little better job than that. So we're going to stop live stacking real quick. Yeah, that's a crappy photo too. Let's go ahead and drop this down from 90 seconds down to about 2. We're going to bring it up here to 100%. See what we can do about getting rid of some of these things. I must have banged it when I was out there trying to get back in here real quick. So what we're going to do is see if we can adjust this focus a little bit. Now, we shouldn't have to do very much, so I'm going to drop it down here to 100 steps per click. See what it looks like. So let's go out 100 steps and see what it looks like. A little worse. See how it's getting a little bit better? Not getting those donuts anymore. Oh, that's nice. Let's go back here to 90 seconds. Restart the live stack. Come on. Clear out the old images. Come on, clear. There we go. Get down here. Make sure that that is not stretched. Got our dark. Let's see what it looks like in focus, my friends. There, now that's much better. Now here we've white balanced it. That's 100% of my camera. If I go down to 33%, it kind of looks like that, and that's the Lagoon Nebula. See how much better the focus is there? That's one image. That is one shot. As this thing stacks, that will get better and better and better. So we'll sit down and watch this for probably 10-15 minutes. And then Professor Parks, I'm going to send this to you. But look at the detail that we're getting just on one. Now it's 2 now images, but you can see the dust lanes in the nebula. Just the little folds and all the detail that you're getting. Notice that there are no more donuts anymore, and the stars are pretty much nice and round. They're going to get a lot rounder with time. Ladies and gentlemen, the Lagoon Nebula. The Andromeda Galaxy is about 2.5 million light years away. It is our closest neighbor. It's the largest galaxy in our local group, followed by the Milky Way, followed by Triangularum. But let's go ahead and have a quick look at that one. So we'll turn off guiding, which has been pretty good. 0.6 of an arc second. And we'll go over here. Slow our telescope down to Andromeda, which is actually pretty close to the horizon. But my horizon out in this direction is 5 degrees, so I should be able to see that. It's probably above the king rate as well. You know, the first 5 or 10 degrees of the horizon has got a lot of refraction in it. Once you get above that, once you get above 15 or so degrees, 15, 20 degrees, things kind of are where they're supposed to be. Now we'll go on over here. Oh, best stop live stacking. Let's go down to 4-second exposures. See some stars. I need to go out and check the dome real quick to make sure it's right. Be right back. Okay, so there we are. Now, one thing that you may have noticed about the other galaxies is they have a core to them. That is the core of the Andromeda Galaxy. That isn't the whole galaxy. And since it's been a minute since we did it, let's just have a quick look at the stars. They're in good shape. Start some guiding here. We'll go ahead and guide on that one. There's the Andromeda Galaxy right there. We're going to guide on this star down here. Get started on our live stack again. Now, actually, we screwed that one up. That's the core of that galaxy, by the way, right there. So let's go ahead and set this to 90 seconds. We're going to go down here and take the stretch off of that. Going to clear these. Take the stretch off, take the stretch off. And we're going to let that first image come out. Now this is at full frame. So this isn't 100%, this is about 15%. This will give you an idea of the difference in sizes of these galaxies. Does the dome move accurately with a telescope? It's not doing very well tonight, to be honest with you. You know, the geometry of the dome isn't perfect, and quite frankly, I think I need to make a few adjustments on some of the geometry numbers, for example, the radius, the offsets, etc. It doesn't seem to really want to work very well with the dome tonight, but it does track once it's there, so that's pretty good. Just when you make these large changes, you know, it doesn't seem to follow quite as much when you swing the telescope a long ways. When you're just changing it around 10 or 15 degrees, it follows it just fine. But when you're changing it 90, 100 degrees, it's just not keeping in track. So here we go. So here is the core of Andromeda. Our stars are looking pretty good. Let's bring it back down here. Now, let's white balance it. Right there. And give it a nice little stretch. See how it's got kind of an orangish tinge to it? I've got a feeling that probably has to do with the smoke from the fires up in Canada. The other ones were a little bit more towards the zenith. They were much higher in the sky. This is way down on the horizon. And as a result, we're seeing a lot more effect of that smoke going off to the northeast, which is basically in the direction of those Canadian fires. So it's interfering with us a little bit here. But you see the enormous size of this galaxy compared to the other ones. Here's a 100% view. Remember, that was pretty small when we were looking at the whirlpool. You know, it was only about this, you know, the whirlpool was only about this big. Look at the size of the Andromeda galaxy. Let's drop it down to 50%. It's still going off the side, so let's drop it down to 30%. It's going this entire distance. That's M110. That's another galaxy there. And that's M31. But that's our neighbor, Andromeda. Remember when we looked at M51 and M101, the entire galaxy was about this big. About the size of the core of the galaxy here. This one is considerably larger.